Friends, allies, and Americans, welcome to the Defense of Democracy podcast, where we tell the stories of folks who defend your children's rights by advocating for inclusive public school systems and who fight for diversity across our nation. I'm your host, Karen Swoboda. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to this session of Defense of Democracy. I am Addison K. Witt, and I have the extraordinary honor of welcoming Dr. Charles B.W. Prince, a dynamic visionary leader shaping the future of education and institutional transformation. Dr. Prince serves as the Chief Transformation and Sustainability Officer and Chief of Staff at Dillard University, where since January 2023, he's led strategic planning, student retention initiatives, and the university's transformation through partnerships like UNCF. Previously, he held pivotal roles across multiple institutions, including Howard University, Virginia Union University, and as a professor of UNICAF. He's also earned over $5 million in grants and external funding to advance innovative student success initiatives. Dr. Prince's academic journey includes a Doctor of Education in Global Executive Leadership from USC, a Master's in International Education Leadership from George Washington University, and a BA in Composite Social Studies from Southwestern University. He's also been recognized as an Andrew Mellon Foundation Engaged Diversity Fellow. Woo! That is a mouthful. What a pleasure it is to welcome you here. And I didn't even mention that you are the chair of the board of Defense of Democracy, so that means I better be on my P's and Q's today. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well today. How about you?
I'm doing well also. You do have an incredible journey across institutions in the US, the UK, Africa, and Ireland. Can you take us back to where this path began for you, and what kind of upbringing did you experience?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. I will say, to add to the mouthful, I was at Dillard University, but I'm now at Shorter College in Little Rock, Arkansas, as the Vice President for Advancement and Institutional Strategy. So still more a mouthful to say, but nonetheless,
Congratulations.
Thank you. So where the path began, for me, it was an opportunity to get into education when I got to college. I had always dreamed of getting into politics. It was something that I had believed that I was going to do all throughout middle school and high school. And I really spent a lot of time have family members who had either been educators or in politics. And I knew it was going to be one way or the other, but I really wanted to do the politics part because my mother was the first African-American, first African-American woman to become mayor of our town after 150 so years. And so she was an inspiration when she worked all her life, and then she retired and said, I'm going to get into politics, and ran for office. And she was a city councilwoman, and she became our mayor for 9 years. And so, I knew going into college, like, I want to run for office and come back home and be a mayor, and went to school. And for some odd reason, just fell in love with education policy and really wanted to bring both worlds that I had been exposed to into my reality, into a career that I knew I could make out of it. And so got to college and realized that, I'm going to go overseas and see other countries, and got a chance to go to Jamaica, got a chance to go to Haiti and South Africa, either doing mission work or doing education work, and said, I like international education. And so ended up getting my master's in international ed at the George Washington University. And ever since then, it's just taken me overseas, it's taken me other places. And then I just decided I'm going to get a doctorate in global executive education because I want to be a leader. I want to be able to lead our institutions into the future. And for me, that's really what has culminated in multiple experiences in my life, which is we have a lot of work to do in education, not just here in the United States, but across the globe. I think we all experience education very differently. And we need to understand that education is the gateway to prosperity. It's the gateway to more money. It's the gateway to better knowledge. It's the gateway just to being a better human being in general. And so the role of education I saw was so multifaceted in the way someone can change that I just, through my life, and career into that field. And that's what I've been committed to. And no matter where I've done it, UK, Africa, Ireland, the US, education has always been the same caveat for anyone who wants to experience it, who's gone through it, who utilizes it for their own prosperity. And it's been the same for anyone that I've ever met.
I love that. There are several things that you said in there that really resonated. And I've often believed that um, the foundation is everything. The
Mhm.
community that you are brought up in, the parents that are teaching you the ways of the world are so incredible. And you mentioned the role that your mother played and her involvement in education and politics. It's funny because I was going to ask very early on or at some point, you should be running for president. We need more people that are educated and are grounded in education and are smart that are
Mhm.
serving as our leaders today. So that's
Yeah,
actually incredible.
funny enough, I used to be called POTUS because people always thought that I would eventually just, get in the office, get to Washington, and maybe one day run for office. But at that point, it hasn't happened yet. But I haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater, as they say.
Well, I can certainly see why they would. Let's get into the discussion here in terms of
Sure.
you have worked both in academic and operational leadership. How has your own educational experiences shaped your philosophy as a leader?
I think what has really shaped my philosophy as a leader has been not just kind of the academic and operational leadership, but also my faith in God, in reading the Bible, and really understanding the role of education in our current society. Funny enough, I just gave a presentation last week about what institutions should be doing to transform the way in which they engage with a variety of different things that they do. And I used the story out of Luke chapter 5, where Peter was out on the boat and Jesus gave him instructions to do something a different way. And he got a better result by doing it a different way. But he didn't know what that way was going to be. And I think that really speaks to how universities and colleges need to start thinking about their value for money. But also, as leaders, we have to start asking ourselves the question, are we doing the right thing at the right time? Or do we need to be able to understand and take on advice and guidance and different instructions? And so, as a leader, I'm constantly questioning what I know and what I think I know. And I'm constantly questioning the things that I don't know. And whatever I don't know is just as scary as what I do know, because I got to question things that I may not be able to see or completely understand. And so, as a leader, I recognize that I too take instruction. And no matter where I am on the totem pole, as they say in the operation, we're all taking guidance and instruction from something, whether it be a higher power, whether it be a board of directors over the president over the vice presidents. Everyone is taking some sort of instruction from someone else. And we've got to recognize as leaders, our role is about being nimble, being humble, but also understanding that we have something to deliver. We have something that we have to give to the people. But the way we do that is we have to make sure that we're questioning and really understanding why we're doing these things and challenging what we know so we can become better leaders in this society.
I love that. And I think that's one of the things that is so important currently, whether you are a visible leader or you're teaching leadership in community, in
Mm,
institutions that we are a part of. It's important. I mean, obviously, there are people who are leaders and there are people that are followers. However,
right,
and we need all. However, we can teach even those people that um, don't lean into leadership how to find and establish leadership within their own lives.
right.
I think
Yeah.
part of the challenge that we have today is that there's so many people that don't really have that instrument of leadership, which is why it's easy to succumb to leaders that don't have the overall best interest in society or in the people that make up the society.
No, you're right. And I think people have to recognize that not everybody can be a leader. It's okay to be a follower and have your own thinking and mindset and bring something to the table. And that's why, funny enough, I haven't really ran for president per se, is because there's only one position for president, but there are 3,000 or so positions as presidents of universities. So my chances of being a really good leader grow with being a president of a university than the president of the United States. But I think in that same context, even though I'm being lighthearted, funny, in that same context, the opportunities are vast in spaces where we're trying to compete to be great, but we can compete together to be great together. And I think that's more important than trying to go after one position, the presidency of the United States. But you're right. I think leaders have to recognize that there's different ways that people can lead: soft leadership, hard leadership, and what does that look like now in our organizations?
Yes. I know that you're not at Dillard University any longer, but there was a particular issue I was interested in when it comes to transformation and sustainability. And
Sure.
I know that you've been involved with um, transformation at the educational level. And I was interested in, what does transformation look like in higher education right now? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I think there are two competing ideas, not necessarily competing ideas, but there are two camps of transformation that are happening. The first is, how do we build on the current existing structures of institutions to be better at what they've been doing? But then there's also the conversations or the camp of, we got to look different, we got to move different, we've got to completely do a 360 and come out almost like a butterfly, sit in our cocoon, figure out what we want to become, and then go out and fly. And so I think what we're seeing with transformation is there are a lot more who are trying to figure out and say, look, I'm good at something. Let me do the resources to expand, to accelerate. I can nibble and dab into certain things to expand my offering and look a little different, but I still want to stay true to mission, stay true to delivery. Then there are other institutions who are saying, we can't do that. We have to move with the markets. We have to be more flexible in the way in which generations are changing. And there are transformation officers who are out there who are doing a lot of work to help institutions accelerate where they want to be, staying close to their mission. And then there's those that I'm a part of who are saying that actually that's good, and there is a place for some people or some institutions like that. But I'm part of the group who are really looking like, we got to look different, we got to think different, we got to move different, and we have to deliver for the new generation of individuals, and that is not our current offering. And so what can we do? How do we respond to employers? How do we respond to the government? And how do we think about transformation in our financial sustainability, the way in which we deliver education, the kind of students that we educate? When we're questioning everything to come out and look different, hopefully we will look better and then be better. And I think for me, that is the real moment of transformation in higher education. And I think the overall two camps make sense because it's such a vast group of institutions that transformation can look very different. I work in spaces where we're constantly under attack. We're constantly under resourced. We're delivering way above our weight. We're institutions that have been committed to the mission, will always be committed to the mission, but even what we do and how we deliver has to look very differently. And sometimes that's questioning, do we go back to doing what we used to do, right? Most institutions right now don't do things in trade like carpentry or electrical
Yes.
or plumbing. And they're thinking about liberal arts and these kinds of questions. And that's still valid. But I think transformation says, wait a minute, but the market's changing. Everything is changing. Sometimes it's okay to go back to your roots and offer carpentry and offer plumbing. Because guess what? The people who are silent millionaires are not the people with 4-year degrees. They're the people who are the plumbers. They're the people who are the electricians, because not only do they get paid cash, but they're only few in town. So they have saturated a market where you need them to do the work, and they're making good money doing it. And so the question becomes, where does the role of the university in helping people understand that is the new direction and way to go? That's where the jobs are. But also thinking about the role of AI and entrepreneurship, and how do we build universities that don't have to rely on tuition to survive? How do they become businesses that can invest in economic development in order to survive and be financially sustainable, to still be able to deliver education to the population? And for me, that's transformation. That's looking different, operating different, thinking different. because not saying that we have to do the same thing. We have to be able to still be alive and sustainable. And that requires us to think differently about how we approach these issues. And so transformation really for me is about how do we make sure higher education is still value for money for the community, value for money to the government, but also value for money to the economic development of our people, people of low income, people who have been here for decades and centuries, investing in their local community and being in this city, but also being an entity that drives economic mobility for those individuals as well.
Man, I'm so glad I asked that question because you're speaking my language. I recently returned to Dallas from Los Angeles, and I have really been surprised uh, with the few number of technicians, plumbers, carpentry. You're so correct. It's a niche industry. These are niche industries, and there's so few people that can actually do the work. And in this particular community where I am now, you do not see signage around the community plumber, electrician. You have to rely on a very small group of people who corner the market and therefore control the prices. And so it is a tremendous need. And I see in this community here, which is largely African American community, we just don't have those people that can do the work. And it's a real pity because there's a tremendous loss of revenue. There's a tremendous loss of revenue for this community and what people could do to elevate the community. So I really see that as a necessity today. And I'm so glad that you're fighting this fight and bringing this up because I see it as something that is critically important.
Yeah, it is, and we've got to make sure that this new generation understands that there is value in getting an education, and getting
Absolutely.
debt and managing your debt and paying your debt and things of that nature to get higher education. That's a necessity. But there's also opportunities to not get debt, to get a certificate and still be a valuable citizen. And I think we institutions have to do a better job of making sure that we make people feel less elitist because they have a degree versus those that don't. Just because you're in the middle class doesn't mean you're better than someone who is working a white collar job or a blue collar job. You've got to make sure that you're focused on is everyone bringing value in a way that's necessary to the development and community growth that's needed right now across the country.
And I think something that you've said, and I've just observed from your leadership and what you've done, is that you can obtain a certificate and still continue your education and gain more information and more knowledge. And you pointed out AI, which is an incredible resource for people today. To I sometimes will set a module in my AI where I want to understand something new. And I will
Hmm.
create a system where every day we're going to learn this new information, and whether it is a guideline or wherever the case may be. And so, this notion in the transformation is that, for me at least, that you can have both. You can gain the certificate, you can gain real practical skills, and continue to elevate yourself. I think there has to be a culture that encourages that. I mean, just looking at what you've done, I've said to myself, oh, I'm going to go back to school. I'll find the time to go back to school. Looking at what you've done, like the time is now. Do it.
Hmm.
But you have to have that desire, that interest, and really cultivate a belief system that education is a part of the process.
Mm. It is, and I think what people need to recognize at least is that we're all lifelong learners. That just because we have a degree or we got some education, that learning has stopped, or learning only applied to make money and get a good job. Well, actually, learning is also about what happens if that job goes away and you need to pivot.
Yeah.
Those kinds of. And so I think we're in a space now that we're starting to challenge this notion of learning with AI and what does it mean for us as consumers of information to be able to not have a teacher in front of us, but to be able to take learning in our own right, at our own pace, and to be able to do it as we see fit, whenever we see fit. night, morning, late nights, early mornings, whichever the case may be. So I think AI is revolutionizing how we say we teach and learn in ways that we've never thought about ever in our entire existence, I don't think,
Yes.
about the way in which we engage with information.
Well, this is a great stopping point in the middle of our conversation with
Mhm.
Defense of Democracy. We like to highlight a volunteer person who's been exemplary in their contributions and energy that they've committed to Defense of Democracy. And today I'd like to give a shout out to Ellen Hopkins. Ellen Hopkins is an author. She is an honorary board member at Defense of Democracy.
Mhm.
I believe if she is not one of, she is the most banned author in America currently. What a distinction to hold during this important time while democracy is being challenged and the way we see and live our democracy is challenged
Mhm.
today. So she is a unique person. What an incredible background she has and the work that she's done in terms of committing herself to freedom of speech, to telling stories and telling stories of people that are not always the most seen. So Ellen Hopkins is the person that we note today and for her contribution.
Yes, thank you, Ellen, so much for your time on the board. I greatly appreciate the effort and time that you've put into the board. And I do wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and your family will constantly be in my prayers as well. But I'm so excited to have had her put the foundations in place so someone like me, as the new board chair, can take it to the next level. And it's people like Ellen who has made my job a lot easier.
I love that. It really takes a team, doesn't it?
Done.
With
It
that
does.
being said, in terms of banning books, we
Mm.
are seeing an unprecedented wave of book bans in public schools and libraries. How do these actions affect students, educators, and the culture of reading in this country?
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting about book banning is, to be honest with you, we have been book banning for centuries. I think in education, what people don't realize, even though I know that the focus right now is on book banning, we have been banning books for centuries. We've done it in very different ways, whether we do it in our homes, the schools have done it, our churches have done it. Everyone has engaged in some sort of book banning because of whatever reason. I think what we're starting to see, though, is that the access to information is being curtailed so much that people's reading isn't going to be impacted. It's the amount of knowledge they have to understand current context that will be impacted. So I don't necessarily think people's reading levels will go down, because there are places where they may have 10 books, they may have 1,000 books. The state basically isn't doing well in it helping people read better. Okay. So we know that it's not necessarily what kind of books you read. But we do know it is the approach in which you teach people how to read that is going to be the most impacted. And so I think what we're going to see here is that as people begin to ban books, I don't think reading is going to improve, because we're still not engaging students about being good at readers and engaging in reading and understand the concept of what it means to be a good reader. What I do think is going to happen because of book banning and the subsequent things that happen with this work is we will start to see that other communities will begin to build educational systems outside of the current system. So instead of engaging with it, and I'm always interested in this conversation of fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of individuals will actually flight versus fight. Because the fight can seem too heavy, can seem too big. It's the entire system. It's not just a school. And so I think what individuals are going to be doing, or communities are going to be building flight schools, schools in which they will be able to control what information comes in and out when the district doesn't. They were already doing it when we were saying we were DEI, and they were building anti-DEI communities. Now we're going to see the opposite. The system is now becoming anti-DEI, and then communities are going to become more DEI. And so this dichotomy, this conflict that we're going to see in our country is going to really hurt people's social emotional intelligence. It's going to really hurt how we think about history, how do we think about our current affairs. People will still read. They may not necessarily read everything, because the words are still the words, is how you use it, right? But I think the knowledge people will be able to hold about understanding why things happen will be curtailed so much that our conflict will happen because the history has been told differently or has been excluded from the conversation. And so I don't necessarily think the reading achievement of students is going to change, but I do think how people think about history, either the whitewashing of history or the elimination of people of color's contribution to America will be dissipated. But that's going to be the big issues, and that's where our civil war, our educational conflicts are going to happen, because once you start building a society where people don't at least have access to the same information, we can never have true conversations that are going to move us forward. And that's going to be the detriment of our democracy in America.
It's an ongoing battle and an ongoing fight, and it's something that we have to remain vigilant in making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, taking care of our communities. And that's one of the things I feel that's very important in this climate, that we get to see how fragile democracy truly is. And it is our responsibility, all of our responsibility, generation after generation, to uphold that democracy, to fight for it. We cannot take it for granted. And as you point out, book bans are not new. And so everything that we see happening is not new. It is a return to something that has happened before, and we must remain vigilant.
We must. Yeah. And I think this is why, people need to understand what woke really means.
Yeah.
Woke does not mean that it's all about black or brown or the victimized. Woke means the longer you stay asleep, the more you will forget and not see the world evolve and not understand history. If you're woke, if you're understanding the ideals that our forefathers are trying to do, even though they weren't religious, what our presidents tried to do, whether they were religious or atheist or believed in money or had slaves, the fact of the matter is that if you have the knowledge, you can make better decisions. But when you don't have all the knowledge, you repeat yourself. And so that's the whole point of being woke, is just being knowledgeable about everything that is out there, or at least trying to be, to make really informed, inclusive decisions about how you navigate our country and this world.
I love that. The longer you stay asleep, the more you miss. It reminds me of a remark my mother would often say: nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream.
Right.
Get up, let's go. There's work to do.
There's work to do, exactly.
We're pretty much at the end, but I just want to ask, as the chair of the board for Defense of Democracy in this organization, what does it mean to you personally to hold this position, and what kind of future do you envision for the organization?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I always thank the board at every meeting for the opportunity to serve as their chair. It was the board's decision to appoint me as chair to help the organization move forward. And so I'm always appreciative to the board members who, at least the ones that were there, who appointed me into this position. And I'm grateful for the new board members that have joined under my leadership to be a part of this work. My role as chair is really about trying to think about the future. Right now, I have set the first year of my chairmanship to really focus on the foundation of the organization and helping it to become more sustainable financially as well as operationally. The next 2 years of my chairmanship is going to be about the future. How do we build this organization to be not a behemoth of a nonprofit, but really to be impactful in the states, in the communities that really need this information, that needs this work, that needs the research, that needs the advocacy. And what does that look like for an organization like ours to be able to work in those communities and work with partners who are already in those communities to ensure that we're all inclusive? Like, we don't have to go down this route to ensure that education is good. Education is good if people believe that everyone can learn and will learn and should learn at the pace and rate in which they should be able to acquire information and apply it, not necessarily in this approach of, well, you can only read these books and you can't read that book, and that's how it works. And so I think we've really got to think about what that means as an organization to put ourselves in those positions and places especially in communities where it's necessary for us to not take on these anti-DEI pedagogical changes that are taking place. And so for me, I've got to really focus on the foundation and focus on the future. My hope for America, as the chairman of this organization, is that America will realize that it was never a country that was meant to be religious. It was never a country that was meant to be anti-religious. It was never a country that was meant to demean people for over a host of variety of issues. It was meant to get away from oppression, even though they engaged in more oppression. But we're now at a point where we don't have to go back to oppressive manners or oppressive strategies in order to get to a better society of America. Oppression and exclusivity has never solved any world issue. It has never solved any world problem. Just because you believe that exclusivity is the way to go, look at the world. I tell people all the time, if you look at all the countries that we have, 50% of them were built because of exclusion policies and exclusion practices. And guess what? Half of those are in war. There's a regional war. There's a civil conflict. There is some sort of major conflict that is impacting the way we think about engagement with the world because of inclusive practices. And so America engages in these kinds of practices. It is calling for a civil war with its own people. And I don't believe America is ready to have another civil war based on religious ideology, based on gender ideology, or based on race ideology. And so I think it's important, and my hope for America is that they will come to a woke moment or an actualization moment, as we say in education. You think about the hierarchy of needs, right? They come to self-actualization and realize that we can all live harmoniously. We can have an educational system that works for everybody, and we're all willing to invest in that because our children's future depends on it. That it will come to a point where it can be a shining beacon for the world, or just a shining beacon for ourselves. We don't have to be a shining beacon for the world, but just for ourselves to say, you know what? We all came from different ways, pathways to this country, whether we were brought here with our ancestors were brought here or not, we came on our own or not. The fact of the matter, we all here. And we're all going to die here eventually. And so we should probably make the best of our relationships with each other so that we can live healthy, happy, and financially sustainable. So that's my hope for America. And I will keep fighting for that hope because I believe in the audacity of hope. And I believe in the fact that as long as I keep that hope, my children will have that hope, and that generations will realize that at some point we have to come to this realization we can all live harmoniously and we don't have to go into a war or be exclusive to be inclusive for prosperity.
Dr. Prince, man, thank you so much. I love that. And I wanted to, there were several questions I was going to ask, but you basically incorporated them in what you just shared. And I love that hope for America. And it's so important to hear. There's so many voices out there in this country that are rational, that really do believe in our country, regardless of their political persuasion. There are so many people, and it's important to hear these voices and hear them often.
Right.
Last question for you, and that is simply, what are you looking forward to? Something positive in the next few weeks or next few months? What's on your agenda? What do you want to see happen, or what are you planning that's going to be great in your life?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to writing another book on higher education and the role of transformation in higher education. I'm looking forward to going on vacation in the Caribbean and enjoying the sights and the sounds and the quiet and peace that I probably deserve after working so hard over the last couple of months. Because I think we have to take in some of these beautiful sights. I do believe in climate change, and I am worried that climate change will have an impact, especially on our islands and our small countries. And so I just want to go and take them in and not have to experiencing them through a TV or through an AI or some hologram. I want to experience them for myself. And so I'm looking forward to traveling the world and traveling to some countries over the next couple of months.
And did you share the name of your book?
Yeah, so the book I'm writing on right now is called Management Governance and the Evolving Role of Faculty in Higher Education. And that book will be coming out in January of 2026. And then I'll be working on another book called The Transformation of Higher Education, where universities go for value for money. And that book will be coming out next fall in 2026. And that book really focuses on challenging every notion of higher education and saying if you don't ask the question and don't challenging it, you're never going to survive the next decade. And so I'll be having interviews and talking with a variety of presidents and VPs and sharing their experiences about what they fear and really talking about what their hope for higher education will be and what we need to be thinking about for the change. So looking forward to that.
Well, we are looking forward to it as well, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I wish you the very best in your future political um, positions, and and we know that you're going to be great in everything that you do, and we love and appreciate your leadership and the commitment that you make, even as a citizen of our country, these United States. For those of you that enjoyed this conversation, or you are intrigued or interested in volunteerism and participating with Defense of Democracy, we'd love to have you on board, whether that is lending your time, your voice, your insight, and even financial support. We welcome you with open arms and appreciate you as a listener. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.